An audio gate is a process in which signal level is reduced once it's below a certain threshold point. Some common uses for gates include reduction or elimination of noise. In this video, I'm going to show you how to mix audio, basic audio. In this video, I'm going to show you how I mixed basic audio for a reality show. This also applies for documentary filmmaking. In this video, I'm going to show you how to mix audio, basic audio. In this video, I'm going to show you how I mixed basic audio for a reality show. This also applies for documentary filmmaking. In live situations particularly, gates are used all over the place because there's a lot of spillage on microphones, which can cause many issues. Gates are used to reduce breath noises in vocal recordings. With a gate, you can do what's called ducking. In this video, I'm going to show you how I mixed basic audio for a reality show. This also applies for documentary filmmaking. If you haven't already, please watch a video on this channel about TV loudness standards. I'll put a link in the video description. For this video, I've added a brick wall limiter. This plug-in right here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I mixed basic audio for a reality show. This also applies for documentary filmmaking. If you haven't already, please watch a video on this channel about TV loudness standards. I'll put a link in the video description. For this video, I've added a brick wall limiter. This plug-in right here. I've added 7 decibels to compete with the... Before advanced noise reduction systems were invented, gates were the way to reduce noise. In fact, people often call them noise gates. The controls of a gate are simple if you think of a real-life gate. A gate is an extension of a fence, basically. The purpose of a fence is to keep unwanted things out of your property. A gate allows you to easily let the good things in without having to tear the fence down each time. An audio gate is the equivalent of installing a real gate. Gain automation is the equivalent of having to repair or replace the fence each time you want to let something in or out. Sure, both get the job done, but one takes longer to accomplish the same goal, and audio gates, like real gates, are more practical than riding the gain during a whole mix, and in live situations, gates are the only practical solution, because we only have 10 fingers, if we're lucky. For this video, I'm going to show off 2 gate plugins, Pro G from the company Fab Filter. Right here, I'm using the evaluation copy. This is one of their older plugins, so it's small on a 1080p display, unfortunately. And then here is Regate from Kakos, which is built into Reaper, but if you have VST 32 or 64-bit, you can download this plugin for free. First up is the threshold knob, which sets the point at which signals below it are gain reduced and signals above it are let through untouched. The opposite of how a compressor works. For whatever reason, this control in Regate is unlabeled. It's right here. But it's not called threshold, it's just a slider. Ratio is how aggressive gain reduction is applied, just like a compressor. Over here we have the knee control. A lot of gates don't have this ability, and they're always hardening. Watch me bring this up and see how it's getting softer. Right there. Like if I bring that up, you can see it a little bit better maybe. And what that does is it allows you to gradually open or close the gate for a more natural effect. Now back over here, the range knob. This controls the maximum amount of gain reduction. This is the second most important gate control, and pretty much all gates have this control. You rarely want to set this to infinity because it sounds unnatural, but you might want that. There might be a busy mix where it doesn't really matter if you set it to infinity or not. And why is that? It's because closing a gate entirely sounds unnatural. Have you ever heard a voiceover recording while wearing headphones and all of a sudden it cuts to digital silence? That sounds fake, doesn't it? And back when I was a newbie audio engineer, I used to do that. I used to have that infinity gate. I used to volume automate so it was completely gone. I don't really do that anymore. All you really need is about 30 to 40 decibels for your range setting, and that's a good amount to make your track virtually muted, but not make it sound unrealistic. And the added benefit is that if you don't go all the way to infinity gain reduction, your gate can open back up faster. If you use regate, that's the dry control over here. It's not labeled as range, but just trust me, this is basically, you reduce this, it goes to infinity, and then dry is whatever's left. It's not called the same thing, it may not do the same thing, but using regate, that's what I've come to find out. When I reduce my voiceover breaths, I'm using 8 to 12 decibels for the range setting. Next up is the hold control. This is the amount of time it takes for the gate to close after a signal goes under the threshold. Normally, you wouldn't have any hold. Some gates may not have this control. This is a great little control though that helps if you have a bunch of tracks it's very dynamic, and closing and opening the gate too much sounds bad. And you work this in conjunction with the release control. Our next two controls are related. We have attack, which is how quickly a gate allows a signal to go through once it goes over the threshold. Usually you want to keep this at a low number because you don't want to have your gate not opening so fast. But again, this varies depending on your track. And we had the release control, which is how quickly the gate closes once a signal goes under the threshold point. So if you're looking for more natural sounding, smoother gating, set a faster attack time, which allows for transients or the start of sounds to not be cut off, and slower release times because they allow for the tails of signals to not be chopped off too early. Up here is our hold knob, and this works in conjunction with the release control. It controls the amount of time it takes for the gate to close after a signal goes under the threshold. So while release is actually slowly going down with the gate, your hold control keeps the signal level without affecting it at all. Okay, next up is a control that's not on all audio gate plugins or hardware, and it's also not on Pro G, or at least I can't find it. It's called Hysteresis. Now, Regate has it right here, properly labeled. So the Hysteresis control, it's a fancy word that means a second threshold control. And this setting controls how far apart your original threshold is compared to this. Now, why would you want that? Sometimes you'll have a signal that crosses the threshold point very quickly, and that creates a gate artifact known as chattering. When you hear it, you'll know it. So if you set the threshold to, let's say, -10 decibels, and the hysteresis setting to 10, the second threshold point would be at -20 decibels. A good hysteresis range is about 5 to 10 decibels. The hysteresis is the point at which the gate will close, and the higher threshold point is where the gate will open. Now, Pro G doesn't have that control, or at least I can't find it, but it does have this look ahead option, which should alleviate some of that artifacting known as chattering, if not all of it. Gates can also take advantage of external side chains, and in this plugin you hit Expert, and it opens this up, and you change it to EXT, and what this allows you to do is trigger this off of another track. On some gates, the external side chain is called a key input. It does the same exact thing as a regular side chain, but they use a different name so there's no confusion with different compressors. Of course, nowadays they just call it a side chain because they realize people aren't stupid. Now, a good example of this usage is if you ever heard a DJ on the radio talk and he has a music bed playing, and then next thing you know, he stops talking and the music comes back up in volume. And then when he starts talking again, the music drops down in volume again. Well, the DJ is not doing that manually. There's a chain set up that takes advantage of an audio gate. That's what's going on there. That process is called ducking, and it's made possible by the use of an audio gate. Another common ducking scenario is to lower a vocal reverb or delay effect while the words of the song are sung. Then, when there's lyrical rest, the reverb or delay are brought back up in level to fill in the gaps. This is all made possible by the external sidechain. Now, if you do use an internal sidechain, you can filter them, filter their frequencies. So let's say you have a kick drum and there's more low end, but you really want it to trigger off just the high end where the click of the kick is, then you can just filter out that way. Here's a pro tip. If you have a multi-mic'd instrument, you will be better off gating both of them off of the same track. This avoids any issues where one microphone is picking up more spill and not gating while the other one is. An example of this is a kick drum microphone that's inside the drum and one that's outside the drum. You'll want to choose the microphone that has the least amount of spill as the gate source. Of course, that's the one that's going to be inside of the drum. Another gate trick is to gate a bass track with a kick as the external sidechain source. That way, anytime the kick drum hits, the bass guitar's volume is lowered just a little bit, and the kick drum can be more impactful this way and hit listeners in the chest without the bass getting in the way. And there's another trick with a kick drum, which I don't particularly like, but there's engineers that do it. So if you want to try this just for some kind of cool effect, but it might be dated in a few years, you can gate everything off the kick drum except the vocals, if you have any vocals. And this makes it sound like the volume of the entire track is having the volume raised and lowered anytime the kick hits. To me, it sounds like right after you've jogged and your heart's beating in your ear and all you hear is your head throbbing. Yeah, that's why I don't like it. I really don't like the way that sounds. A good example of this is the Ariana Grande song, Love Me Harder. Now here's another cool effect, and I picked this up off of the Pro G promo video. You can sidechain a rhythmic pattern onto a pad. So let's say you do some taps, and I don't know if I can mic my table up right now, but let's say you do. You can gate that off of a pad that's going. It sounds pretty cool, actually. You guys that do EDM are probably like, newbie. But yeah, I thought that was really cool when they were demonstrating that. Now, the all-important question. Where do you place the gate in a typical signal? The answer is it all depends. In the analog domain, I would say put it after everything that adds noise, but before compression. And the reason the gate goes before the compressor is because leakage from instruments that you didn't intend a microphone to pick up may cause the compressor to react when it shouldn't. Here's the thing though, you might not always want to gate microphone spill. Sometimes a mix actually will sound better if you leave the spill in. But if you're having serious phase issues, then a gate is the solution. Anyway, guys, I hope you learned a lot in this video, and if you have any gate tips, leave them in the comment section below. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.